Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we've got something really exciting to talk about. The brand new update for Black Myth Wukong. So first things first, let's talk about what's really changed here and why everyone is talking about this update. For PS5 players, this is probably the most noticeable improvement so far. The developers have gone back and retuned the performance mode, and it's now running back at 60 Hz again. That means smoother gameplay, less input latency, and generally a more consistent feeling when you're fighting those tough bosses. I think a lot of players were missing that buttery smooth feel after some earlier tweaks kind of messed with the balance between resolution and frame rate, but now it feels right again. And the cool thing is that they didn't just revert it, they actually made improvements alongside it. So we're talking faster loading times, sharper textures, and better visual clarity overall. If you've noticed that weird ghosting or flickering that sometimes appeared on the edges of your character or objects, that's been addressed too. The whole image looks cleaner now, like someone polished the glass you've been staring through. Now, for all of you PC players out there, there's actually quite a bit going on with this patch as well. And it's all focused on making the game more stable and more flexible for a wider range of hardware. Probably the biggest highlight is the addition of AMD's FSR 4 support. This means you can now enable the new Fidelity FX Super Resolution feature both in your driver settings and in-game, giving you smoother frame rates and sharper visuals, depending on how you set it up. It's great to see them adopting the newest tech so quickly. It's a sign that the team isn't just fixing issues, but also pushing the game forward technically. There's also a new compatible mode that's been added, and this one is actually really smart. Basically, if your PC setup is a bit on the edge, maybe your drivers aren't playing nice, or your graphics card struggles with ray tracing, this mode automatically disables some of the more demanding features like RT and frame generation. It's designed to help prevent launch failures or weird crashes that have been plaguing a few players since release. It's kind of a safety net for people who just want to play without spending an hour troubleshooting settings. They've also improved the lighting quality, especially for players using lower GI settings. So if you're not running a top-end card but still want the game to look decent, you'll actually see a noticeable difference now. Lighting feels a bit more natural, shadows aren't as harsh, and the overall contrast in darker scenes looks way better than before. And of course, they didn't stop there. They went through the game and made a bunch of CPU, render, and memory optimizations, which basically means the game will run smoother overall even if your hardware hasn't changed. Oh, and speaking of optimization, they fixed a bunch of specific issues that were annoying people on PC. Things like XeS 2.0's frame generation not enabling properly. Yeah, that's fixed. Same goes for the DLSS 4 crashes when ray tracing was turned on. You won't have to keep flipping those settings or praying that your game doesn't crash when you launch it. And for those who were using NXSR and getting that weird ghosting or flickering during fast motion scenes, that's been cleaned up too. So really, if you've been holding off on playing until the performance stabilized a bit, now's the time to jump back in. Now let's not forget the Xbox Series X and S players. While the patch notes don't go super deep on Xbox-specific changes, it's confirmed that the same performance and stability improvements are part of this rollout. So whether you're on the X or the S, you should notice smoother frame pacing, faster loads, and fewer crashes overall. I'm honestly glad they're bringing everything up to par across all platforms. It's been one of those rare cases where the devs are clearly trying to make sure everyone's experience feels equal, not just focusing on one system. But of course, this update isn't just about graphics and performance. There are a few gameplay-related tweaks too, and some of these actually make a real difference in the flow of combat. The most notable change is to the fight against Giant Shigendang. The devs said they've adjusted this boss fight to improve the overall combat experience. Now, they didn't give every little detail, but based on player reports so far, it feels like the pacing of the fight is smoother and some of the hit detection and timing windows are more consistent. It's not easier, but it's fairer, which is exactly what you want in a game like this. Another big one involves the top takes bottom and bottom takes top fight. Apparently, there were cases where the boss could become undefeatable or the iron ball that's supposed to appear just didn't show up properly. That's been fixed now, so if you were stuck there and couldn't progress, this patch should set you free. It's small stuff like that which really shows how closely the team is listening to feedback, because these weren't game-breaking bugs for everyone, but for the people affected, it was totally frustrating. And speaking of smaller fixes, they also touched up a bunch of rendering issues and ghosting problems that were affecting certain cutscenes or action sequences. Some players might not even notice it consciously, but when you play after this update, the visuals just feel more stable and clean. Less of that something's off feeling when things move quickly on screen. Now, something that's worth mentioning, and I can't stress this enough for PlayStation 5 users, is that this update requires about 93.5 gigabytes of free space to install. Yeah, I know, that's a lot, but it's because of the way the PS5 handles patching and file replacement. The devs did mention that if you're running low on space and can't apply the update, you can just delete and reinstall the game instead, which might actually be faster, depending on your connection. It's not ideal, but at least they were upfront about it. For the PC crowd, the devs also made a point to warn about mods. If you've been modding your game at all, they strongly recommend uninstalling any mods and verifying your game files before updating. This update touches a lot of core systems, and leaving mods installed could cause crashes or weird conflicts. So yeah, it's worth taking 5 minutes to clean things up before patching. The patch also adds a new language, Czech. So for anyone from that region or anyone who prefers playing in that language, that's now officially supported. And while they were at it, they fixed a handful of localization issues too, including things like subtitles not matching voice lines or text that didn't quite make sense in other languages. It's not the kind of change that gets headlines, but it's important for players who want a fully polished experience. One thing I really appreciate about this particular update is how methodical it feels. It's not one of those flashy patches that adds some random cosmetic or a new quest line just to make a headline. It's a technical update with purpose. It feels like the developers sat down and said, okay, let's make sure this game feels better for everyone. And honestly, that's exactly what the game needed right now. Black Myth, Wukong is a masterpiece visually and thematically, but like any ambitious release, it had rough edges that pulled people out of the immersion. This patch smooths those edges out. Another thing to point out is that the rollout for this patch is happening gradually starting October 13th, so depending on your region and platform, you might not see it right away. But once it's available, I'd say it's worth installing immediately, because the stability improvements alone are noticeable from the first moment you load up the game. Even just moving through the menus or transitioning between zones feels faster and cleaner. And if you're wondering whether the new performance tweaks affect your save data or any gameplay progression, don't worry. Everything stays intact. The patch is purely focused on making what's already there better. That means no rebalancing of weapons, no stat changes, and no nerfs to your favorite skills. You can pick up exactly where you left off and just enjoy a smoother, prettier version of the same experience. I think the smartest move they made was fixing that ghosting and flickering issue, because it might not sound like a big deal, but it actually made a difference in how the game felt. Before, there were times when you'd move the camera quickly, and the edges of your character or background objects would leave this weird trail. It kind of broke the illusion of realism.